You are listening to Abnormal Spaces.
I'm Donnie.
I'm Ryan.
In this podcast, we discuss conceptual realities, the researchers, authors, and explorers who describe and define them, as well as our personal experiences in these abnormal spaces. In this episode, we discuss the life and works of Michael Faraday, who some regard as the father of electrical distribution. His theories and inventions are omnipresent in modern life. I don't know. I'm too old to remember.
Is that Freedom Rock, man? We'll turn it up, man.
Yeah. What are you doing? Turn that shit up.
I haven't heard that in years. I haven't even thought about that in years. What a weird memory.
Yeah. Blast from the past.
Take these off. I'm not reading anything.
I'm reading your mind. Speaking of blast from the past, I don't know if I ever told you or not, but when I was young, between the ages of birth and like 8 to 9 years old, my dad owned a television and radio store, and he actually owned, it was a small chain, so he had a store in Washington Square Mall, Town Center North, and then he had Owensboro, Princeton, and Vincennes. I believe Owensboro. Anyway, I know the other ones for sure. But he grew up really poor. He joined the Navy. There's a lot of funny stories about all that. But anyway, he was trained in the Navy on electronics, on radios and communication stuff and all that. So when he got out of the Navy, he went to work for a local television store, and he was a repair person. And so from there, he just, developed and went from being a repair person to manager, then to owning, and et cetera. When he was actually home, which wasn't that often, he was always trying to teach me about electronic stuff. And, he tried. I was young, and so he had some difficulty, I guess, explaining to me, and I had some difficulty getting it. But one of the things that blew my mind as a little kid was an electromagnet. So he, showed me that essentially you can take any old bolt, wrap a coil of wire around it, and then hook it to a battery, and now it's an electromagnet. And so I had great fun with that, and I was so confused by why the magnets on the fridge didn't need electricity, but this bolt did. And he, explained it to me in a way that a 6-year-old might understand. Unfortunately, it's still my basic concept of magnets and magnetism and electromagnetism, et cetera. But when we've been talking about all the things that we talk about, energy, electricity, magnetism, all that stuff comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me that the forces at play have always been at play as long as, recorded civilization, or this particular iteration of recorded civilization.
Yeah.
It's been around, the whole time, and it's still such a mystery. I mean, we understand a whole lot more about it now, but there are certain components of it that are still just a mystery.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's really neat. I think that that's one of the things that I find really interesting about Michael Faraday is that, he learned a lot about electricity and about magnetism and all that. And he just kind of brute forced his way into it. And what I mean by that is he would do countless experiments. He was just relentlessly persistent about trying to figure stuff out. And part of that is because of his poor upbringing. So he was super poor. Father was a blacksmith. They belonged to a small religious sect that focused on reproduction, basically like have as many kids as possible. Also, they didn't read anything but the Bible. So there's only one book in the house. It's the Bible. And they were so poor that in the late 1700s, because he was born in 1791, in the late 1700s, London had a sort of a welfare system, and their family qualified for it, and they got one loaf of bread a week from the government.
That's crazy.
And it's insane. And they were like, I don't know, 12 kids or something. So anyway, he had gone to elementary school, basically, but then had to drop out to support the family or help support the family. He went to work for a bookbinder. So first of all, there weren't libraries in London at that time, and probably not, anywhere in Europe, I wouldn't imagine. But there weren't libraries, so only rich people had books. And only rich people had access to books. So when he first goes into this bookbindery, which is in effect a bookstore, he was kind of shocked because the only book he had ever really known was the Bible. And he goes in, and his sect was taught that everything in the Bible was the direct word of God. So he walks in, he sees all of these other books, and he's like, what is this? And it just blew his mind right there.
That's so crazy, man.
Isn't that insane?
That's like a whole layer of crazy added on top of everything that we're about to talk about. I guess, it's like...
Yeah, like that part of it just really floored me. So anyway, so he goes to work for this bookbinder. He starts reading all these books, and he takes books home with him, etc. I don't know how that worked out with the family, having other books in the house. He probably snuck them in. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, so he gets really fascinated with chemistry and also with teaching yourself how to learn. Yeah. Because again, he had no formal education. So one of the books he read said, take a lot of notes, make drawings. So that's what he did. So he was reading and then writing his own interpretations of things and his own insights. And he would chat with some of the patrons of the bookstore. And one of them, a wealthy fellow, was really impressed. And he had an extra ticket to the lecture of one of the great scientific minds of the time, Humphrey Davy. It was at the Royal Institute, which was a big deal. You didn't get invited there unless you were, going to Cambridge or Oxford or one of those, institutions. Most everyone there was from a class above him. So, he's from the working poor. These people were all, came from wealthy families, etc.
Yeah.
So he goes, takes notes, does drawings, everything. He goes home, he binds it all into a 300-page book, and then he sends it to Humphrey Davy, and he says, essentially, I attend your lecture. Here are my notes, my observations, etc. Also, I would like to become your research assistant. Pretty bold, but just so happens, in the way life works, Humphrey Davy had just fired his research assistant not long before that.
That's wild.
Yeah. Now, part of it is because Humphrey Davy was difficult to get along with, and that comes up later. So he hires him. It was highly unusual for a person from the strata that Michael Faraday came from to ever have any kind of access like this and to ever be around all these great minds. So he became a research assistant, and his brain just basically exploded with, all of these tools at his disposal, all of these books at his disposal, all of these great minds at his disposal. So he starts assisting Humphrey Davy, and one of the things Davy was working on was how to generate power, and he kind of gave up on it. And so as Faraday became more prominent, so people started referring to him, listening to him, asking him questions, leaning on him, etc. Humphrey Davy got more and more bothered by it. And at one point, he wanted to take credit for something that Faraday had developed. And so it created this rift, and basically Faraday left, but Faraday decided, okay, no more electricity, no more magnetism. I'll just stick with chemistry. So he goes back to chemistry, and then 7 or 8 years later, Humphrey Davy dies. And so then he's right back to electricity and magnetism, and then starts developing all kinds of stuff. But more importantly, other people, or I guess equally importantly, other researchers and scientists at the time started expanding on his ideas. So, he is credited with inventing the first transformer. So other people took that and ran with it. Same with induction.
Electrolysis.
Yeah, electrolysis.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the first things that he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people just took it and ran with it, and he just continued, to develop stuff. Everything that we rely on as far as electricity in our homes started with him and his observations, his inventions, his ideas. Here's another crazy thing. He didn't have a way to prove a lot of his concepts because he didn't have any mathematic training, so he couldn't write out the equations. So he employed the help of Maxwell, who ended up, Maxwell's got theorems, everything, there are so many things based on his theorems, and it's because he was doing the math for Faraday. And before Humphrey Davy died, he tried to get Faraday kicked out of the Royal Institute because he said he was relying on someone else's math, and therefore he wasn't qualified. And everyone's like, this dude's a genius. We don't care if he's got someone else doing the math, man. He's got a...
Yeah, it's just like a transcriber.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and someone to, I kind of look at it like it's great to have a second party validate or invalidate your findings. If they can do it with math, I don't know, I think that's really neat. But one of the things that I find just endlessly fascinating about some of these really great minds, like Einstein, like Tesla, they often could figure out, they could deduce what was happening, but they couldn't prove it because there just wasn't a way at the time to do it.
Yeah.
So there were things that Faraday came up with that wouldn't matter for another 100 years, or however long. One of the things, though, was fields. So he figured out, that there are electromagnetic fields, that electricity doesn't really flow through a wire. It flows around the wire, but he didn't have a way to prove it. And even Maxwell couldn't prove it at the time to much of a degree. So I think it's really, really cool that these people, they get this, information from the ether or wherever they get it from, and they're like, okay, I'm onto something. I don't know how, I don't know what, but I know I'm onto something.
Yeah, it's just like a channel. It's like a free channel that is opened up.
Yeah.
And it's like that for everybody, I think, but some people just have this natural open channel, and it's kind of infuriating a little bit. Because, it's like, I can feel it sometimes, just from playing guitar and doing music stuff, is like, when I feel a guitar in my hand, I just know what to do. It's not like I'm trying to think about what to do. It's like I just start playing some stuff, and it follows. I don't know, not making it sound like, oh, I'm special or anything. I'm just saying that it's like a natural thing.
Yeah, well,
very natural.
That reminds me. I'm sure we've talked about it, but when I pick up a different guitar, it's still me playing, but it's different than how I normally play. Or something comes out of that.
It's a different channel.
It's a different channel.
For real.
I know. It's the weirdest thing, and people who haven't experienced that can't really imagine what that means or what that's like. And they're like, well, there's just the tone's different or whatever. And I'm like, no. It's more than that.
Yeah. I've bought guitars just to write songs when I was stuck.
Wow.
And that's why there's so many guitars. For the most part, I'd be like, I'm just stuck. And I'd pick up my regular one and I'd play. And I would just play all the same kind of shit. But then you get this other guitar, like that Dan Electro. I bought that one for that. I was like, I want to buy this. I want to see what it sounds like. I want to see, and it sounds totally different, and everything's different about it.
Yeah.
So then you play a different thing.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel like, that's kind of an easy way to explain what we're talking about as far as like channeling from some other source or something. It still goes through you, so it still has all the imprints of you, but it still is different. It's still something else.
It's like you're the filter for this. It's like all of the knowledge that has ever been, or ever maybe could be.
Yeah.
I don't really even know.
Yeah.
But like the Akashic records or whatever people call it. I mean, but anyone who like Casey, Edgar Casey, and all these people, they used that. They pulled from that, and that is what we are, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's necessary to have these different filters to kind of discover or to, experiment with this information from this ether.
Yeah.
Because, all of us are going to interpret it, approach it, everything from a different place, from a very unique place. So because of that, it takes that information going through this specific filter at this specific time to then have this specific discovery or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the people like Faraday and Tesla and the geniuses throughout time is, it seems like they just had a natural ability to get their personality out of the way of the endless stream of information, and then also use pieces of their personality to interpret that and pull it down into this sphere, like this third dimensional vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seems like is going on to me.
Yeah, and it feels like magic because it kind of is. I mean, it takes all of those variables to get to that thing.
Yeah.
Also, we've talked about torsion and spirals and all that, and I think it's really interesting. So I can't remember when it was. It was probably like Algebra 2 or something. But one of my math instructors was essentially saying that the equal sign was like a mirror, and that like the equations didn't have to look the same on either side of the equal sign, but they were. And so because of that, it makes it easier to do calculations. If you have one part of the mirror, but you don't have the other part, then you can figure it out. So you can, it's
like, what the hell?
I know, it's a weird concept, but so anyway, one of the things that Faraday's credited with is he figured out that you could use electricity to cause motion. He put this magnetic bar in this solution of mercury, and then charged this, and I'm getting all this wrong, just so you know. But I do know about the magnetic bar and the mercury. But anyway, there was like a little piece of metal, like a little metal rod or whatever, and he got it to spin around to go around the magnetic bar. And then he was like, he figured that out, and he did like 200 experiments to get to this point. So, I mean, it's the persistence of this man is, and part of it is because he didn't have any of the formal training, but I think that was the beauty, because since he didn't have that, like you were saying, that stuff wasn't in the way.
Yeah.
So that wasn't preventing him from just trying.
Yeah, he didn't have any like people saying nope, 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 and that's it.
Right. Yeah. So he just did his thing until he figured it out. So then he was like, well, what if I can get the magnet to cause the thing to spin around? So so he switched, how the electricity went in or whatever, and he did that. Then he figured out, okay, I can make a small motor out of this. So he made a small motor. And then he was like, well, the opposite must be true. We can probably spin something to generate electricity. So we have electricity spinning something. Now let's go the other direction. And that worked. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, right, because that whole mirror concept, if it works this way, it'll work the other way. But then also torsion spirals, man, that's all it is. It's like everything spins. And like our whole understanding of like particle physics and atoms and stuff like that is based on spinning, Yeah. So here's electricity, it's more spinning.
Yeah, well, everything is a spin.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. I just came up with a new word. We can edit this out, but we have a spinstitute.
Spinstitute.
A spinstitution. Cut.
Oh, shit. I saw a thing about Faraday where he was kind of getting into the spiritual sort of weird thing of the time, like where you're calling spirits and having seances and shit. There was a fascination with, like 4 people would get on a table and put their hands on and the table would move and do all that shit. And so he devised an experiment to see whether or not the people were moving the table. And the way he did it was really, really neat. And I don't really understand it. I mean, I'm going to get it funky, but anybody can look it up. He built these these pieces of wood that were square. It was like springs sandwiched in between wood, 2 pieces of wood, and it had like this, each one of them had like a piece of metal pointer, I don't know what you call that, like a needle on a compass.
Yeah.
You put your hands on that, and if you're pushing to the right, I think it will go left, and if you're pushing to the left, it will go right. And the explanation behind it was that if the person is actively pushing the table, it would do a thing, and they could look at the needle to make sure that they were centered. And so then all the table shit stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But they also figured out the involuntary, almost, or like the unconscious, it's like dowsing.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. The observers were the reason and the belief.
Yeah.
So see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you have like all of these people, in a spot and they really want something to happen, it happens, but it's them doing it. It's weird, So, so that was the whole thing too. It's just a little side shoot, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Like it reminds me of the observer effect, where you're changing the outcome based on the observation. But also, it's so neat, like that period in history when people were really trying to figure stuff out, and so they were going to all these great lengths and
actually trying to figure, like scientists were actually doing science.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing the real stuff, and they weren't like, I mean, some of them, like you said, there were people out there for money purposes. And then as that built up, that's when the science became less and less, because then it started falling into categories of like, well, we don't look outside of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and governments did that too. I mean, so, money was only going to fund what was going to make it more money. And then governments, didn't want all of this information necessarily getting out to everyone.
Yeah,
So,
but there was that period of just like pure,
yeah.
science in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll see it ever again.
I know.
But
Well, and it was science for science's sake. It
Yeah.
wasn't, they weren't trying to do anything other than figure out how stuff worked.
right.
It's wild to me too, when Faraday was young, I mean, the Napoleonic Wars were happening, so it's like, I feel like that was so long ago because it was, but to know that, that's when he was coming up was that long ago. And because of the things that he did, we're able to have this conversation, these microphones.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think about that shit sometimes. I mean, especially with Tesla and stuff. Like, I'm just like, we wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
None of this.
Yeah. It's really neat too. So there weren't radios in the 1800s. In fact, telegraphs were, towards the mid to late 1800s, I believe. I know it was the mid 1800s, but at any rate, so they didn't really understand radio waves and stuff, yet he conceptualized the field and understood that things moved in these patterns and these waves. And so, he devised the cage that would stop the transmission of those waves. And what's neat is you can create those today. You can block some stuff, like you can block a lot of the AM radio, but you can't block the FM radio without going ever finer because you think of like a cage. They actually called it Faraday's bird cage, which now that's just Faraday's cage. But anyway, you didn't necessarily have to have like a fine mesh. Like it could be just like the 19th century bird cages, but if you do have a finer mesh, you'll block more. Mm-hmm. And then, to know that that's what's used in the microwave to keep all that radiation from leaking out into the house.
That's so crazy, man.
I know.
It creeps me out.
So back to my dad and his TV and appliance store, when microwaves first came out, they were called radar ranges. And the reason is because it's the same concept that's used in a radar to generate those microwaves. Mm-hmm. In fact, that was discovered by a guy melting his candy bar working on a radar. But anyway, so they were called radar ranges. We got one. We were like, it's funny. I grew up very privileged, or at least for those 8 or 9 years, because, we had cable TV before anyone else because, my dad, we had a VCR before any of our friends, stuff like that. But anyway, so we had this radar range. And I remember people being freaked out by it. Mm-hmm. They were like, "Oh, that's going to kill you," and you got to wait before you open the door, let it dissipate.
Yeah, my grandma had one, and she I remember that shit, and I was fascinated by it.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Don't stand there and look at it."
Yes.
Yeah,
people didn't know what to make of it. Yeah, it was crazy, but and that's again, he was kind of explaining the concept to me, and I'm 6, so I didn't really get it, but I kind of got it. I kind of understood. But then here I am all these years later, and I'm like, oh, that's why it's vented. It's not a vent; it's a cage.
Yeah, this is an offshoot, but my dad brought home a VCR, and I could not fathom what he was telling me.
Yeah,
was about to happen. He was like, we're going to watch a movie on the TV with this, the movie's on this tape.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean a movie is on a tape? What does that even mean? I didn't even know. I remember it, it's so vivid, such a vivid memory. Because it's I couldn't, because I was thinking of I think it was Rocky was the first thing that he had rented or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, so we're going to go to the movies? How is this thing going to take us to the movie theater? My brain just wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
And then we did it, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I could,
Yeah.
it's kind of reminds me of the Bible, that you were just talking about. The only book they had was the Bible. And when he went into the bookstore, he was like, there are other books.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. Can you imagine that?
No, that would blow my mind. That'd blow anyone's mind.
Like, he didn't even know typed words were, you could do that in another place.
Right. About other things.
About other things.
Yeah,
That's so crazy.
insane.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
No, so I had an 8-track player first, and I had a mix 8-track that I don't know if my dad made it or my mom made it, but it had lots of disco stuff on it because when I was like 4 and 5, man, I really liked disco.
Yeah.
It's part of my problem today. But anyway, disco and Dolly Parton. I don't know. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. We love Dolly Parton.
So when I saw the tape, because, you can push in the little button and open the little hatch and you can see the magnetic tape in there. I remember my dad showing me. He was like, this looks like the 8-track tape, and it's basically the same, except that this also has video on it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And that's as much as I understood of that. And don't get a magnet near it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also demonstrated that one time with an old TV that was junk, basically. He's like, watch this. And he put a magnet on top of it, and the whole screen went crazy,
Yeah.
and blues and greens, and it was wild. But anyway, so yeah, well, and that was neat too, because that was a cool visual representation of the magnetic field.
Yeah.
Like as you got closer to that CRT tube TV, you could see it like growing on the screen.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, I've always been just really fascinated with magnets and magnetism.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It is really bizarre. It's a magical thing. And there's no reason to believe that it doesn't exist elsewhere in the universe. Most likely, we know we have a Van Buren belt, and we know about the magnetosphere, basically. But the current understanding of the way that's generated has to do with the Earth's core spinning the opposite direction of the Earth's spin, and somehow that creates a magnetic field, or that's one of the working theories. So I'm like, well, that's probably evident elsewhere, in the universe. There's probably another planet that does a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's probably other ways that magnetic force asserts itself, but we don't know. There's so much, like, we take magnets for granted. We take electricity for granted. And, because it's just, a part of daily life, but it's still magical. It's still, we get it, but we don't fully get it.
Like you were saying, some people just get things. I've had really awesome people in my life really gifted people try to explain electronics to me over and over and over and over again. And it's almost like they're just wasting their time.
Yeah.
Like, and I hate to say that, but I have tried earnestly, and I've retained very, very little.
Yeah.
I don't really I just don't get it.
Yeah.
My mind says I want to get it, but then it rejects like learning it.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. My problem is, like, in the moment, I kind of understand it, but I can't commit it to memory well enough to be able to then explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I could teach anybody much about any of this.
Yeah, they're like, well, so it's amps plus watts equals, or whatever. Like, there's an equation about the current and the amps and the volts and they're like, imagine this is water pipe, and it's the big water, the current, and then the voltage is like you do, and and they're like explaining all of these things, but I'm still like, but what does that even mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's cool, but how does this pedal work?
Right. Yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, then they can, but then you can't understand it because you have to know all that shit.
I know. Well, and that's another thing crazy too. Like, in that time that Faraday was doing this, Ampere, the guy who came up with amps, was also a scientist at the same time. I can't remember his name. I want to say Voltaire, and it's not Voltaire. But the guy responsible for volts, same thing. Gauss for magnetism. They were all working on this at the same time.
See, that's weird too.
Within like, 30, 40 years of each other. But still, I mean, that's basically the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it was concurrently, though. And it's like, wow, what an explosion of knowledge and
A renaissance.
yes,
Yeah.
like an enlightenment, like
Yeah.
electrical enlightenment.
Yep.
And one thing about the cage too was he didn't have a way to really explain the waves, but he was onto something. Same with the fields, and that's essentially what it does. It creates a field around whatever's in the middle of it, so that it doesn't get these waves. And it's like, how did he know that would create a barrier? And
Yeah.
how much of it was quote unquote luck? Because, you do 200 experiments, you're going to learn something, so you just keep plugging away.
Yeah. I mean, just twisting two copper wires together creates a field.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, you don't even have to do anything for that to happen.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's crazy. And it's like, magnets, they just have that field, and you can feel the field, but you
Yeah.
can't see it. And that's
Yeah.
the coolest thing, because it's like, well, there's one thing that, so if this is a thing, then everything has to be a thing, because I can't see what's happening here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Why don't they want to go together? And then
Right.
why do they go together?
The other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Right. Yeah. Well, and, it still looks and feels like magic, because what is going on where it's repelling each other. And
Yeah.
like, we can get all kinds of explanations, but I'm still like, right, but that's invisible. We can't.
Without the explanations,
Right.
you put these two things together and they repel, and then you flip them and then they go.
Yeah.
Like what, like as a kid or something, you just have to look. That's how he was doing it.
Right.
He was just like, well, why the fuck does it do that?
Right. Yeah. And if I do it this way, will it do it differently?
Yeah.
And
then if I do this, the opposite has to be true. Like,
Yeah.
because it goes this way, so why wouldn't it go that way?
yeah.
It's just real simple stuff, but really profound stuff at the same time.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, it's not, he's not so much abnormal, but a lot of the things that he was working with are very mystical. I mean,
Yeah.
to me it is anyway. And so, he didn't confine himself to any one thing either. So like, he developed glass for lighthouses to help make the light brighter. He wanted to give back to poor children like himself. And so he set up these like Christmas lectures for children for free. And so all these poor kids could come and learn about science and see the Royal Institute.
That's
that was,
cool.
yeah. And that was all his idea. And, and again, he was still somewhat dismissed by some of the contemporaries because he didn't go to Cambridge or Oxford.
Of course.
And yeah. And we see that today, and we see that forever.
Yeah.
But, he was like, no, I'm smart, and there's a kid out here that needs that same opportunity. So I'm going to do what I can to help further that along. And I just, I have to wonder if there wasn't some kid somewhere at one of those that ended up inventing something.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And they still do it to this day.
Oh.
They still do those lectures for free for the poor kids or whatever. I don't even think you have to be poor. I think you just have to be a kid.
Yeah.
And you just go on that. I don't know if it's Christmas Day, but it was around Christmas or whatever. And it started out on Christmas Day, I think. But regardless, he was constantly pursuing understanding. Just, I want to understand as much as I can about as much stuff, and I'll brute force my way into it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be the best way to do anything, really. Like, you just have to get in there and like get dirty and do it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know how to do a thing that you want to do, you just have to start doing it.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is he was really interested in alternating current, and so was Tesla.
Yeah.
But Edison was really interested in direct current.
Yeah.
And it turns out we do need both. We can use both.
Yeah. But alternating current is superior.
Far superior. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Tesla was like, yeah, dude, okay, you can go how far with your direct current? I'll check this out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was Faraday who actually figured out alternating current. He was the first person to figure that out. And everyone's like, eh. And he's like, no, trust me, this is better.
That's so crazy, man.
I know.
Yeah, it's super crazy. I told you about the John Ellison. He wrote that book. I don't know if he wrote it. I don't know. My information's squirrely on that. But there is a book called The Faraday Twins. And John Ellis was the water guy who apparently altered the bond of hydrogen, the hydrogen angle bond of water permanently. And he got it from Faraday.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Because Faraday said that if you rapidly heat and cool water hundreds of times, he didn't say, I don't think he said like specifically, but his theory was that you would alter the hydrogen bond angle of water and it would be easier to be used because he was into electrolysis and shit.
Yeah.
And so he was all over it, you know, and he's like, if you lower the bond angle of water, it would be like fucking 30, 40, 50 times more efficient at splitting in an electrolysis, you know, state.
How did he know that?
I don't know. But this Ellis guy, he worked at a steam plant, and he was like he developed steam parts for, God damn it, my brain just isn't fucking working today. He developed steam parts. I don't know, like, what is the word? He was a steam dude. Like, he knew all about it, and he worked there, and he fucking built the shit.
Was he a punk?
He might have been a punk. He probably was a punk. But he was a smart motherfucker, and he did it. Dude built the machine, fucking worked.
Yeah.
It works.
Well, so, okay. So Humphrey Davy gets mad that Faraday is stealing the limelight. So Faraday is like, all right, I'll do chemistry. And then
Yeah.
that's insane. And then, like, what if he never got back to electricity, but what if he figured out a whole bunch more stuff about chemistry?
But it's almost like it was laid out, though.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'll just get into chemistry, and then he needed that 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then this dude just dies, and he's like, all right, cool, I'm going to pick back up here.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
He probably didn't stop with electricity at that whole 8 years.
Right.
Either,
He
you know?
probably just didn't, like, publish it
Right.
or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he ended up figuring out how to make the metal on the bottom of ships less corrosive or whatever, so they could be in the water longer, you know? So it's like, it's really amazing to me that his chemistry brain was just as advanced as his electricity brain. Like, you know, figuring out bond angles and stuff. When they didn't even have, there were no electron microscopes or anything like that. So, like, how could they figure some of the stuff
I
out?
have no fucking clue. And I don't really know, like, I haven't read the book, so I don't really know the actual facts. I mean, everything you get here is just kind of like a roundabout sort of like, hey, if you're interested, check the shit out. Like, I'm not going to
Right.
I'm not going to,
Book report.
yeah, I'm not going to book report the shit for you. Like, because I don't have that kind of interest or time.
Also, that wouldn't be very entertaining.
Yeah,
you know?
I just kind of like, I just read some stuff, and if it makes me go, ooh, then I'm like, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah.
You know, and then if it makes me go, whoa, then I like buy some shit and mess with it and see what happens,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.